All right, no, we're back for another episode of Pair of Rankers. Let's continue the rankitude, motherfucker.
Absolutely. Sorry, before we continue, I'd like to give a special shout out to Alan Eakins for writing that intro and Stephen Euster for editing it for us. Big shout out to you guys. You're absolutely awesome. Always enjoy listening to it.
Yeah, it's fucking awesome, man. Thank you so much. And I'm sure it'll be a legal battle somewhere along the line. But it's okay.
Yeah. That's why I'm trying to get in some good graces right now. It all goes to shit, like.
Yeah, but we're back for another episode. We're back from our break. We're coming back for another bit of rankitude, and this time we're going to fucking pile in on our most underwhelming franchises. Like for me, I don't know what your criteria was for picking, but for me, it was the franchise had to have a promising start, but yet did not live up to that potential, and so much that it underwhelmed me completely. I think that was the little bit of a movie mathematics I was doing before I was picking my list.
I think so as well, even though, like, because I guess if there was a franchise that was like, for example, Transformers, I thought the first one was okay, the second one I thought was unwatchable, and that was it for me. I was done. So for me, I guess it's something you have to love it enough to get to the end of it. Yeah, and then ultimately you're kind of left and feeling a bit robbed. So I think it's where I went. I didn't really have a criteria, but looking at my list in front of me, I've watched all of the movies in these franchises. So at some point they must have been getting something right. Yeah,
cool. I know what you mean. So like what we're going to do is, like we always do with rankers, we're just going to get fucking stuck into it. We're just going to try blast through this in 30 or 40 minutes because we've other shit to do. So all right, Noel, give us your number 5, motherfucker.
Okay. I would have to say for my number 5, and this is a list I actually gave a little bit of thought to. I would have to say that it was Halloween itself.
Oh, I guess some thought about Halloween, all right.
Sorry, I'm kind of in the way there. And
it's okay. Your green screen's failing again. It's okay.
I didn't actually have a green screen. I'm going to go away. Look. I'm just going to say still.
Is your background a curtain or a wall?
It's a wall, but it has a thing on it.
Yeah, so you need to just have a nondescript wall. It just needs to be solid.
You see that skull coming through though, man? That looks kind of badass. I'm going to take it down after this one.
Yeah, no, it's cool.
Take it down. It actually looks really cool.
It's cool. It can be your thing.
Look at it. Look at that. Actually, you know what? I'm just leaning into it now. But,
literally.
But Halloween is an awesome franchise. But then you had that weird third one. And then you had the discontinuation where they did my girl Danielle Harris dirty. Yeah. And then suddenly the last two are suddenly 2 and 3 and continuations of the first one where he ends up spending all this time in a mental institute. It's messy. It was a beautiful, beautiful series, and it got messy. It got convoluted. It disappeared up its own asshole.
Yeah, it was so simplistic at the outset.
It was so simplistic, and also they did one thing that we both agree was unforgivable, and that was they made now Michael Myers is officially a
Jason
monster.
Voorhees.
He's Jason Voorhees.
Yeah,
you can shoot him in the brain.
Yeah,
and he'll get back up. Yeah, so there's nothing human about him.
Yeah, that was the biggest departure or something
that he had for 40 plus years, 41, 40 years, at least 42 years. Yeah. It's gone.
You keep this.
I know. Did you see that?
You're like, it's gone. As in case
at the second. But no, it hurt. And it's underwhelmers. I love Halloween. Halloween 1 is one of the best horror movies ever made. Yeah. Probably in my top 3 horror movies of all time, I'd imagine. And but ultimately, when you look at it on the whole, I'm kind of like, there's things that piss me off. There's things I'm mad about. So there you go. That's why Halloween for me. What about you?
No, I'm the same as you for Halloween. Like Halloween didn't make my list, no spoilers, but like it's something I thought about for a couple of days when we came up with the topic. You come up with the topic like you normally do for these rankers episodes that I thought about for a couple of days, and Halloween is one of my favorite horror franchises out there, but there's so many bad movies in there. There's so many bad movies. Like Halloween 1, Halloween 2 are great. Halloween 4 I absolutely love. Halloween 5 is pretty weak, but it's solid enough in comparison to what followed. And then you have like Halloween Resurrection, Halloween H20, and Halloween Resurrection. And then you had this fucking mismatch of tones where in the Halloween H40, it seemed like they were going for sheer utter realism. And then they had this massive thing with transcendence, and he's unkillable, and he takes out 12 firefighters, and then he takes out half of Haddonfield. And I just thought the major cause of concern with the remakes or reboots of Halloween's is the same issues that the original franchise had going from part 1 to part 5, let's say, where Michael Myers went from a psychopathic serial killer to a guy that was pretty much unkillable, and he was almost supernatural in
like his whole thing is that he's so devoid of anything that he could just walk, no fear. If he drops dead, he drops dead, but like he wouldn't, if it's survivable, he'll survive it.
Yeah,
because he wouldn't give it a second thought. There's no fear.
Yeah.
He wouldn't he wouldn't get his heart rate up so that he bleeds out quicker or something like normal human beings do. He's just the ultimate killing machine, but a human killing machine. And then when they took that away, they made my list.
Yeah, I thought it was unnecessary too, because he's so frightful already that you don't need to add these extra elements, because
exactly,
like, it's something I spoke about before, something I've talked about to a few different people throughout like the last few years, that like in this world that there's certain, like there's wolves and there's dogs, and everyday people like me and you were dogs, and then you have these people out there that are complete predators and they're wolves, and it's so terrifying when you think that you can handle your environment because you're a dog and you're used to it, when all of a sudden a wolf walks up. That motherfucker is different. He's built different. He thinks different, and he just, the way he that's what Michael Myers was. He was just a wolf amongst dogs, and like there was nothing supernatural about it. There didn't have to be anything supernatural about it. He was just so devoid of anything that he just made him this.
There's something very scary about indifference.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? Like as in, I'm killing you because I hate you, or you remind me of my mother, or whatever, and whatever serial killer type things. But that this indifference, like an insect killing another insect for invading on his territory, that's how much thought's put into it. It's so indifferent to you. That's horror to me. And it was a perfect franchise, and then it very much so wasn't. All right, moving the ship along. You're number 5.
For me, like this franchise started off with 3 really, really solid outings. 1 and 3 in particular were incredible. 2 was probably a little bit weaker, the original trilogy, but as it went along, it became ridiculous. Part 4 was pretty solid, but part 5 was a shit show, and that is the Die Hard franchise. Like, I fucking absolutely love these fucking movies, but they're so inconsistent. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's like, I just think it lost its way, and I obviously, you know, it's so hard to follow up such a classic with part 1, but part 3 was so good as well. To have part 4 was kind of like,
I quite liked part 2. I liked it more than other people did, certainly. But
part 2 is good, but it's not as good as part 1.
Oh no. But you would allow for some diminished return based on just how incredible the first one was.
It was just kind of like a little bit too similar to the first one.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah,
you know what I mean? No, like, except it was in an airport, not a building. That was pretty much the difference. You know what I mean? So it was just, I think part 3 was so different because it was like a cat and mouse game, and like, you know what I mean? It was like these kind of skeletons coming out of the closets and all this kind of things. Like, you know, it just had all the elements. Had play expansion on legacy characters with Hans Gruber's brother Simon coming in. I think his name was Peter or something, but like, you know what I mean, Peter Gruber. But like, so it's just, I just love that kind of thing where it expanded. In part 4, it's like, nah, let's just be like every other action movie.
Oh yeah,
you know what I mean? Though, like, it's like we can modernize it. I thought it was an interesting, like, it's a good action movie, but it's not a good Die Hard movie. If that makes any sense.
It's not. If we make this movie, we'll make money. That's what it got.
It's just with Die Hard 1, 2, and 3, he survived because he's so tough.
Yeah, and which one was a 4 or 5? I don't know, and frankly, I don't care. Is where he steps out of the car as it's spinning, and he's shooting, and the car is about to, like, it's literally spinning, like, and it's about to hit him, but he just gets beyond the trunk of the car just in time, so it's just this cool shot. Yeah, and you're like, yeah, that's not Die Hard. That's walking between raindrops. That's Matrix.
That's Fast and Furious.
Yeah. Or you know, where he takes out a helicopter again with a car.
Yeah, exactly. Bullets.
Ran out, and then there's the ran out of bullets thing, and that was never his thing. Like, if you remember the first one, what made it so good is that, like, they were following trails of blood because he was running around without shoes on, and they shot out all the glass.
Shoot the glass.
Yeah, you know what I mean? And it was just perfect. And he ended up in, like, fist fight with the German big tank of a guy. Yeah, like, it was. He got there to the end, but it was ugly, and he got hurt. Yeah, and he got lucky, frankly. You know what I mean? Like, and he had an actual, you know, he had luck on his side. It felt like there was actual peril. But when you're taking out helicopters with cars because you ran out of bullets, it's Deadpool. You know, remember Deadpool is like, I've only got like 3 bullets left, so some of you are going to have to share. And he shoots like 3-4 guys in the head with one like shot, and that works because but that's not.
I loved it in Die Hard with a Vengeance where they jump off the bridge onto the ship as it's going on, and the 2 boys nearly die. They're like in bits before they even start fighting.
Yeah,
like, you know what I mean? Like, I just love that shit. It's like he just constantly survives because he was tough, not because he's this outwardly killer or action hero, super guy. He was just an everyday Joe that happened to seem to get caught up in these massive moments, and he just survived them out of sheer toughness. And the fact that his opponents or his enemies constantly underestimated him constantly, like, and that's what I loved about Die Hard in the first 3, and in part 4 and 5 were just action movies. And that's not what they were. They were action movies, yeah, but just there's the everyday action hero he was.
But in the world of Jean-Claude Van Damme, Sylvester Stallone, and Arnold Schwarzenegger, you could see yourself as a Bruce Willis.
Yeah, John McClane, like, you know.
Like, John McClane. He's a cool dude, and he's in good shape. He's better shape than I'll ever be in, ever was in, of course.
When you were younger, though, you were stood. Remember that?
Thanks, man. I know, but you know, like
early 20s, Noel, that was peak Noel. You know?
But he was a guy you could imagine being, like a guy who's in a shit situation, and like fair enough, he had like the training a cop would have, which is an awful lot better than having nothing. But you were talking about like it would take a team of paramilitaries, like a SEAL, you know what I mean? Like he was definitely in over his head, and it was just flawless. So you're right. Diminished returns.
Yeah, the original trilogy was enough, I think. I think there
should have, if you left it alone at that.
Yeah, well, it was a perfect trilogy.
There was money to be made.
Yeah, that's the problem. But like, so for Noel, for me, Noel, Die Hard for me, because I loved the first 3 so much that how disappointing, how generic 4 and 5 felt. That's why it made my list number 5. So you agree, because we were going back and forth. Give us your number 4, motherfucker.
Friday the 13th.
Friday the 13th, the final chapter, and it had 6 more movies after it. That's
the final chapter, and franchise. It had 6 more movies after it. This is the film that gave us the whole twist, being that there isn't an evil serial killer. It's actually the mother of the boy that drowned. Yeah, you know this, and then the second one, they brought this supernatural killer into it with a bag over his head and a burlap sack, I think, or something at the time.
Yeah, well, he's not supernatural in part 1. In part 2, they just thought he was dead.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
But he shows, but all right, fair enough. But
he doesn't become supernatural till Jason Lives, which is part 6.
He gets fairly fucking close. I mean,
he dies.
Survives some shit.
He dies in final chapter, pretty much spoilers. Part 5, he's not in it, and in part 6, he comes back from the dead, and that's when he becomes supernatural.
Yeah, and that's before he goes to space. And
which is Jason X part 10. I love this franchise. I love the Friday 13 franchise.
Jason X has the hydrogen kill, which is amazing, and it also has where he's in the holodeck and the girls just won't die, and he's wearing the sleeping bag and he's picking off the tree. Fantastic. Cannot fault it at all. But even though I enjoyed it, it felt like they were trying to make at least Halloween tried something, whether it worked or not. And I'm pissed off because it didn't work, but they tried something. Friday the 13th was trying to make the same film over and over and over again by just moving the location. And it was
barely moving.
Like,
I think across the lake only at one stage.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, so for me, I'm going to say Friday the 13th just tried to make the same film over and over again, and it got tiresome. Like, I put it to you this way: if somebody said, like, let's watch a franchise, and somebody said Friday the 13th, and I got bolted down, and we said, right, we'll do it, I'd enjoy it, but eventually I'd be like 3 films in, and I'd be yawning because I've seen this movie.
Man, I'm telling you,
it starts out so strong, and it's like, now I've seen this movie.
Yeah, the thing about Friday the 13th, in my opinion, is that it actually, the first 4 are by far the best, when it was actually just a slasher movie.
Yeah.
And the more it expanded on it, the more outlandish it became. And I think if anyone wants to really watch Friday the 13th in its zenith, in my opinion, watch the first 4 movies. Part 3 is my favorite. The theme tunes and the fucking soundtrack's incredible, and the cheesy 3D effects amazing. But I think you want to watch Friday the 13th and see what it really was, what it should have been. First 4 movies, in my opinion.
Awesome.
Yeah, I think that. I think.
No, I agree. I think that's well said.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. It gets like crazy as it goes along. Like Jason Takes Manhattan is a fucking shit show, but I love it. I fucking love it. It's a shit show, but I love it. Jason X as well. Shit show,
guy getting his head boxed off on the roof. Classic.
Yeah,
Can't
the guy
take that.
undefeated Jules. Yeah.
All right, hit me with your number 4.
Hit me with your number 4. Oh shit, right there. I just need to whip up my background. It disappeared on me. All right, my number 4. Here we go. All right, drum roll, please. And my number 4 is super disappointing with the sequels, and that is The Matrix.
Oh, I want to be honest. This one flew under my radar. It's actually an excellent addition that I just simply did not think of.
Yeah, man.
And it would have made my list.
It was the first when you mentioned this topic.
Probably would have made my list over Friday the 13th, but here we are. I didn't think of it. But
oh man, when you gave me the topic on Thursday or Friday, I'm not sure when you gave me the topic, I think it was Thursday. But I was like, the first thing that popped into my head was Matrix. And I was like, and I think actually no, it wasn't when you gave me the initial text, it was the second when you go, yeah, it could be this, this, and I go, oh, we're doing franchises, and straight away I was like, The Matrix is the first thing that popped into my head because the first movie was so landmark. It was just so well done to have fucking the sequels go so far off the rails, and then to have them come back then like last year with Resurrections, and it to be so fucking all over the place. It's such a disappointment because
a Matrix for the social media age.
Yeah.
And despite the fact that if they were to make a Matrix now, it would be completely unignorable, but maybe it wouldn't better to just not do anything at all.
I think they should just left it at part 1.
Oh man. Oh, you know what? I completely agree. You know what? I have this really strange memory. Well, I used to call up to my grandmother and just sit with her for a while.
She was always watching The Matrix.
She was always watching The Matrix. No, but like there was a newspaper, and I was so into The Matrix. And there was a newspaper, and it was The Matrix 2, and it had that scene where the Merovingian, and he's blocking all the bullets, and you realize he's gone full Neo, like he's gone full Neo. And I said, this is going to be the greatest film I'll ever see. Yeah, I swear to God, that's how high my expectation was. And then I went into it, and then he fights all of the Agent Smiths.
Yeah, in the car park, or
in the car park, and then you realize, what's the point of this? What's the difference between 1 and 1,000,000?
Yeah,
time. Like how long it would take.
Yeah,
like I mean, there would be more. It'd be 1,000,000 times more ass kicking. Or what's the point of, like, you know, when he became such a god.
Yeah,
that there was just nothing to lean into, and then it just instantly lost its way. And then the third one, they decided to get rid of all of the karate.
Yeah, it was all just it
was all just shootouts and stuff like that, and they didn't get any. And Zion, which is actually quite a cool scene, to be fair. That like I liked a bit of the Zion stuff, but at the same time, it's like, no, like, where's the fights? He has to, like, where's the kung fu? All of a sudden, everyone's shooting. Do you remember, like, you know the way everyone that's like a program or whatever, they all have a thing, a gimmick. Do you remember the guys whose gimmick was that they can walk on the roof? It's just like a gunfight breaks out and they just start walking on the roof. They just start walking on the roof.
It's that
these other guys can dodge bullets and punch through fucking concrete pillars, and you could walk. Could you imagine how disappointed you would be if somebody could say, like, what can you do? Well, if I die, I can instantly come back in the closest available body. I can punch through concrete pillars. I can move faster. I can obviously interpret where bullets are coming from and move faster than them. Walking the
do you think about how easy someone would be to shoot if they just start walking upside down on the roof,
or if they're outside and they forget that there is no roof, and all of a sudden, like, they enter the fight and just end up like shooting off the planet, like, shit, do my roof thing, and they forget.
Where's the roof? Yeah, fucking hell, man. Like, it's a pity because, like, the first movie, it's just so next level, like, you know. Like,
and there was, man, we're going back to 1999 or 1998. There was nothing to compare this to. This was pioneer, bullet time.
Well, there's lots of manga and anime to compare it to.
Oh, I'll give you that. Sorry, okay. Then I'll resubmit it like this. Live action.
Yeah. Western.
There was nothing like live action to compare this to.
Yeah.
No, it's actually a fair point by you, and I do.
Oh yeah,
concede it.
because they completely ripped off manga. Well, not ripped off, but they completely took inspiration from manga and anime, and that's how they.
Oh yeah,
cracked
no,
the whole bit.
100%. That's why.
Yeah.
That's why I won't even
Yeah,
fight the
I,
fight
I,
on that one. I
I
just
honestly
agree.
believe the best thing apart from the Matrix itself is the Animatrix. Like I
Oh
think
yeah, that was
the
awesome.
Animatrix is better than any of the sequels. Like you know what I mean? I think that might be in the proper medium for it to do. And like as like we talked about Disney in our last episode of Dark Side is that build outwards, not forwards, and it leaves more room for expansion. So all right, no, that's my number 4. What's your number 4 or number 3, motherfucker?
Yeah, sorry, I'm just trying. Are you it? There we are.
This fucking guy.
Paranormal fucking activity, man.
Oh man, Ghost Dimension.
You remember how good the first Paranormal Activity, to my
Shit
understanding,
of me.
it was shot in the director's house.
Yeah, the
with
dude,
his own
Micah.
with his own actual CCTV.
I don't know if people can see me, but I'm pointing at your background, Micah, beside her in the bed. That's the director.
That's the director, yeah. And it was genius.
Yeah.
It was Big Brother with a demon. It was just brilliant. And it was so fantastic and so groundbreaking that you just kind of have to go, you know what? You know, it's like just speaking to the musician part of myself. Sometimes I hear like a song by a band like Dream Theater or something. I'm like, wow, I'd never be able to play that in 1,000 years. Then you hear a song by the Beatles, which is one of the best songs you'll ever hear in your life. And you're like, why didn't I think of it? It's just a few chords.
Yeah.
And I always feel like that with films like this. I'm kind of going like, it's not when like after the fact, it's very easy to say, like, that's actually a very simple idea. Bitch, you didn't think of it.
Yeah.
He thought of it.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
And
round of applause.
And
Bravo,
he executed it brilliantly.
And he executed it perfectly, which of course is another thing as well. And I mean, complete and total credit to the man. But then the other Paranormal Activities, and then this just started going on, and then they started, apparently there's a film with like found like footage from the 80s, and it's like where the curse like really originated from and all this kind of shit. And I was like, I don't care. You are like a cash cow, and you're shamelessly
like the last one wasn't great either, next to Ken or something.
Oh, couldn't do it.
I watched them all. I'll watch them all forever.
Oh no, you're and you know what, I commend you for it. I do. Yeah. But no, man, I'm a franchise hound. You're a franchise hound, and I appreciate that. But I was just like, no, not doing it.
Yeah,
I've actually, because I watched 1 or 2 and I was pissed off enough to kind of go, it's not for me. It was actually because I know they're milking an idea for money. Yeah, and the first one was just so, I don't know. I just thought it was brilliant. Second one, I remember that scene in the second one was good. Yeah, this was about to say. Do you remember when the kitchen explodes all at the same time? Like every drawer and every cupboard apps just explodes. That was a great scene. Yeah. Actually, I was the first amongst the first 100 people in Ireland to see it, because I was at the Horrorthon and they were showing part two. And we were seeing it like a month early, 2 months early. Like it was a big deal at the time. Yeah. But we had like shitty phones even by the era 10, 12 years ago. Yeah. And Sheila had a particularly shitty phone, and she was texting somebody on it, which I know you shouldn't be doing. But your man took her phone off her and checked it to make sure she wasn't. Man, it was probably like a 0.5 megabyte camera.
Yeah. You know you ever see some of the photos from back in the day? Like, you know what I mean? Looks like they were shot through a fucking snowstorm or some shit, man.
Exactly.
Like you know, fucking hell. It's like it always reminds me of do you remember Buster in Arrested Development when he starts falling in love with Lucille too? And he's
I do, yeah.
He was a brownish area with points. But
no, it's very simple, man. It's just it's a very typical thing.
My major issue with the Paranormal Activity franchises, unfortunately, is like with a lot of horror franchises, the more it expanded, it became more retroactive in the storytelling. It always had to try to figure out a way of linking the sequels to the original lore. It's Paranormal Activity. A ghost is a fucking ghost. Just fucking make standalone movies. Yeah. But like after the first 2 or 3 movies, when you get done with the fucking whole like Hunter thing and K.E. and all this and her sister, and you get rid of that actual original storyline, why did they feel the need to link part 4, part 5, and part 6 to the original lore when you could just go, okay, that was their paranormal activity. That was the paranormal activity that family suffered from. Now, here's every different movie is going to be a different paranormal activity that different families suffer from, or some shit. You know what I mean? Like, it just, I don't understand why they feel the need that they have to constantly go backwards to try to link it to the original lore when it's such a very like simplistic story to tell in standalone manner, if you know what I mean, or because a ghost is a ghost, it's just going to be a haunting story. And I think after a while those stories became less simplistic and more convoluted because of the need to add in all these different variables to link it back to the original timeline or storyline or demon. And I think that's the only problem I have with Paranormal Activity, because for me, the first 2 or 3 movies are actually really fucking solid horror movies, especially 1 and 2. But after that, because of the need, as I said, to go backwards, that it becomes a bit.
But it's the only way you can, you know what I mean?
It's kind of like Saw. Like Saw is constantly going backwards.
Oh my God.
You know what I mean? Like, you know, so it's just like it's forced regression instead of trying to figure out a way of having smart progression.
How did I not think of fucking Saw?
You know, like, so it's one of those things. Like, it's just sometimes you get too bogged down in what the initial lore was instead of trying to build on it in smart ways. But like, so no, I totally agree with you. Paranormal Activity, fucking love the first ones. Sequels are a bit dog shit as to go along, but it's speaking about something that I love in terms of the original, in terms of the sequel, in terms of what they did to this fucking pure franchise. I couldn't look any further past Predator. Like,
I have nothing to say.
Part 1 and 2, you have a 10 out of 10 movie and you have a 9 out of 10 movie in terms of the genre. I don't care what anyone says.
I don't care what anyone says. The second one is not as good as the first one, but that doesn't mean that there isn't still a fucking shit hot movie.
Look, I'm going to frame it to you not in terms of movies. I'm going to frame it in terms of an action suspense thriller, and that's what Predator 1 and Predator 2 are. That's what they are. One is a hunter being hunted, and next one is pretty much a guy that's like, they frame it almost like a serial killer at the start. I thought it was genius. I didn't really catch on to that in initial viewings. And then when I started really looking at it, we broke it down last year, that like it's so cleverly done, Part 1 and Part 2, and they're so different. To mishandle this franchise in the way it's been mishandled going forward is fucking insane. To have such a cool monster like the Predator, to have such a cool backstory, and the fact that it's a trophy killer that only kills if it's the fucking prey is some sort of challenge to it. Like, to have all this built-in mythos and to have all this fucking weird creed that it has going on about it, to fuck it up in the way they did with AVP1, AVP2 Requiem, and in the I actually enjoy Predators with Adrian Brody. I like that movie. And then to fuck it up in the way they did with Shane Black's movie, it just, I can't like like a Predator would even understand what that means.
Yeah,
like, you know.
And also, it was the wrong hand. Have you ever seen it? Like, the actual, like, he picks up a left hand and puts through a right hand, or vice versa. Like, I mean, like, I was if a Predator was like, yeah, I've been observing them. What have you picked up? Is it not a terrible lot because they can't speak their language?
Yeah.
But this is a good thing. If you do this, that's A1, the thumbs up.
Yeah, for me, Predator Part 1 and Part 2. Part 1's flawless. Part
flawless.
2 fucking awesome.
And there's allowed to be a diminished return when a film turns out to be flawless.
Yeah.
You're not allowed to ask for a flawless, but it'd be nice.
Yeah.
But like, there is room between great and flawless. A lot of room. Yeah. And if you watch a film and it's great, well, then it's great. Leave it the fuck alone.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you know what I mean? Sometimes, like, if you can't better something, change it completely. And that's what I liked about Part 1 and 2. And then after that, it just lost its way, unfortunately. But like, that's my number 3. Noel, what's your number 2, dude?
I'm actually going to bump it background because there's a bit of an overlap, and I'm just going to jump across it. Die Hard.
Diaboo. I'd never make my list.
Die Hard. It made your list. It was literally your number 4.
No, Endeavor. Back it up. Proof. Come on.
No, Die Hard, and it was all touched upon. You were just absolutely right.
It goes in post, and my entire Die Hard section's gone. It goes in. I'm wearing a different T-shirt, different hat. And I was like, no, I hate the Sharknado franchise. This is Part 1.
Wearing your Die Hard Rocks hat.
Yeah, actually, I had a Die Hard T-shirt and everything. Oh man, those T-shirts.
You know what? I did it, and it's like,
where's your background?
It's Die Hard, man. we can move on quite quickly. We touched upon it. We did the whole thing.
Yeah, but just for like the showmanship.
Oh my God!
Trying to entertain people, man.
Of course, yeah. No, you're right. Yeah.
It's fucking good.
And
He's
just
like,
people are watching this kind of going like, oh no, it's good content, but like,
it's like the guy that Loki had doesn't really want to.
This was diminished returns all the way. Well, sort of, like you said, 3 was better than 2.
Yeah,
but then it just went off the rails. Actually, it would have been a great trilogy.
Would be nearly perfect.
Yeah. Would have been a great trilogy. Fair enough, the first one's the best one. That happens.
Yeah, of course.
Home Alone 2 was a good fucking movie, man. But like it's not as good as the first one. It's okay.
Yeah.
There's room. But
part 1's just chef's kiss,
yeah,
as you'd
it's
say.
just it's absolutely sex mate. Yeah. But it just diminished. And honestly, I decided to write this off the cuff because what comes to you first should be what in this exercise, it should be that. To do it flippantly and do it quickly because what comes to you. Saw and Predator. Well, Saw actually big time. Matrix, absolutely fantastic options.
Yeah,
and it might have Die Hard might have been as high on my list had it not been for that. But you know what? We discussed it, so we won't delve into too much. Man, what's your number dos?
Yeah, my number dos starts off with a classic horror movie. Sequels it one of the best action movies of all time, and then I don't know why this franchise
I already know what it is.
has been so mishandled the way it has been, but just like Predator, one of the greatest science fiction horror franchises of all time, Alien is my number 2 choice in this because part 1, you're talking about flawless movies. That is the pinnacle of suspense horror. Part 2 is the pinnacle of action horror, and
implied horror.
Yeah,
everyone talks about number 2 like, oh, there was hundreds of aliens.
Oh,
how many aliens did you see? There was scenes.
You can't like it. Just
phenomenal movie.
It just baffles me that you can have 2 movies that are so fucking good that did so much work independent, like building its universe and make it so fucking fleshed out and have all these little moving parts for people just to expand on. How that was so poorly handled with Alien 3. I know that's a lot of studio interference we spoke about in one of our episodes last year during Shocktoberfest. One of our early franchise Fridays that it was really mishandled by the studio and all this shit, and Dave Fincher wasn't really his fault. But Alien 3 is such a backward step for the franchise after part 2, and then Resurrections is such it's like they saw part 2 and totally missed everything good about it. They're just like, oh, that's an action movie. No, dude, it is technically it is an action movie because there's a lot of action in it. But it's like you just said, no, it's filled with suspense. It's filled with like implied horror, implied gore, implied fucking scare and terror and shit like that. And it did have a lot of cool shootouts and explosions and Marines and all these awesome things. But it was clever storytelling. And that's what they forgot in Resurrection. They were like, oh, we just make an alien action movie. No. And with part 3, they're like, let's just make it part 1 again, except they've no weapons this time. I think something you said in the previous franchise. You know what I mean? It's just lazy. You know, it's that's what they just bastardized the original formulas from part 1 and 2. And then when Ridley Scott came back and make Prometheus and Alien Covenant, it's like he didn't want to make an alien movie. He wanted to make a Chariots of the Gods movie. He wanted to make a Ancient Astronauts movie or something. And he was under the guise of an alien movie. And it was a complete weird direction to go in. It's like he fell in love with Michael Fassbender's David character, and he forgot the xenomorphs were supposed to be in these movies because we had the I think it was the neomorph from one and protomorph, or I can't remember, it was like neomorph and something else. I can't remember the names, but like the way they did that, like that, it just lost all this kind of direction that like people forgot that what made Alien and Alien so special was not just the xenomorph, there was the characters and the fucking dialogue was iconic, and there was also the suspense. Like what makes those movies special is the way they use suspense to terrify you long before the real scare ever comes. And Alien and Aliens are 2 of the greatest fucking movies in terms of entertainment and storytelling of all time, in my opinion. And the way part 3 and Resurrection went, and then Prometheus and Alien Covenant, that they just lost their way and they just kind of lost the idea, and they didn't really understand the franchise they're operating in, which is shocking considering Ridley Scott invented the franchise, you know. So what's your thoughts about Alien?
I think Alien was, you're absolutely right. I think it got to a point where maybe they didn't know where to go. And I'm not giving them an out. In fact, like if you don't know where to go, don't make the movie. Is knowing what you're going to do not the entire point of making a movie?
Yeah.
But it just kind of do we go bigger? Do we go smaller? And the the first film didn't have any of that. It wasn't trying to do anything except be the best film that it could be.
Yeah.
And I honest God, I think they just completely and totally lost sight of it.
Yeah.
And
it's crazy. Like after 1979, like almost fucking 50 years or 40 years, whatever. Over 40 years, right, of Aliens existence, that we've only really got 2 top level movies out of that franchise.
It's hard to imagine.
Out of 6 movies, like.
Yeah, it's very hard to imagine. But what do you think? Like when you think about what could have been versus what actually is, I would go as far as to say that it gets actually a bit depressing.
Yeah, man. I read who fucking is it, Warren Gibson or something, the comic book. I don't know. Can you get that up? I'll check. But it's Alien 3. There's a screenplay written by another dude. It was a completely different version. It was made into a comic book. And it's fucking awesome, man. I was close. William Gibson, and it's completely different than the Alien 3 that we saw. So like, if anyone loves Alien and Aliens and they haven't read the Alien 3 comic book, check it out. It's so different and it's so much better, and you're going to be sickened even more. So that's my number 2. Noel, give me your fucking number 2, motherfucker.
I think. Oh, sorry. No, my number 1.
He's failing again.
Yeah, my number 1, and for some reason my image just will not fucking show up, and the only one I actually have, I'm afraid to use because it's. Remember?
Go for it. That'll do, I guess.
That'll do. It's fucking Star Wars, man.
Yeah, it's good.
You know, like when they got it right, they got it so right. There's no doubt about it. We were talking recently about The Mandalorian, really enjoyed the Rogue One, loved it, the original trilogy. And I think like the 1, 2, and 3, they kind of stand up to view and a little bit better than you remember them.
Yeah.
You know,
the
like
prequels are awesome.
Yeah, like what was the second of the new ones? That was dog shit.
Last Jedi.
And what was the first?
Force Awakens.
Force Awakens took A New Hope and said, like, what if something could blow up planets? What if something would blow up multiple planets?
Yeah, yeah, it's Starkiller base.
What if somebody's like 16 and they can learn to use the Force even though it's old? What if somebody's like 18 and could be even more powerful and can use the Force with no training, but basically off the bat? It was like everything. It was just boring. It was fucking stupid. It was rushed. It was everything that's wrong with making films. And I just thought, like ultimately they've taken the most expansive universe that there's ever been, and I mean the entirety of Marvel can't stand up to Star Wars in my book. That's not to say that Star Wars is better.
I don't know. Marvel has a lot more.
Marvel has a lot more, but the actual
nearly 30 movies, way more comic books.
But that's not what counts. Oh, I'm talking about the expansion, how much there is, because Marvel, because there's a genuine galaxy that's touched upon, an actual, really genuine galaxy.
Yeah,
and they kind of fucked it up.
Away.
And when they fucked it up, they really fucked it up. And when they nailed it, they nailed it. So the pendulum like swung either Jar Jar Binks or Darth Vader, and it just didn't really touch the middle all that much. And so I say that there was something that if you watched everything available, at the end of it, you'd feel, I don't know how you'd feel actually. Like, I mean, if I said everything, you kind of go like, well, that was an experience. But
is this your number 1?
This is my number 1. Yeah.
Sorry, I lost count there for a second.
And this is my number 1. It has to be Star Wars. It has to. And you know, when there was the build up, like the Force Awakens, man, like, I mean, I remember it was on the Colbert Report before Stephen Colbert got his own late show, and he used to kind of do his character. Yeah. And it was just, and it was the red lightsaber with the 2 hilts. Yeah. The little saber hilts. And and that was it. And that was almost all there was. And it was like 3 years out or some shit like that. And I was just like, oh my God, goosebumps.
Man,
goosebumps.
The way they mishandled Kylo Ren was insane. Man, insane. I thought he was going to be the new Darth Vader. Like, they just had him turn into
he wasn't the Darth Maul.
Yeah, Darth Maul, man. Jesus Christ. Talk about wasting a character. Like, outside, thankfully they resurrected him because he's fucking awesome. That's why I was dying to see a Solo sequel, because he appears at the end of it, and I'm like, oh, Darth Maul's gonna be all over the sequel, and then no. But like I totally agree with you with Star Wars. Like but the thing is, like, out of 9 movies, 6 of them are good. But Phantom Menace isn't great. But I love Clone Wars. I love Revenge of the Sith. I love all the new. I love the
When
original.
Phantom Menace is bad, it's the worst of all Star Wars.
Yeah, it has the most weaknesses, I think.
Yeah, like that whole battle.
Or most glaring weaknesses. Like,
yes,
because when you look at the Disney trilogy, they have a lot of weaknesses in terms of the pacing, story structure, all these things, or how they mishandle legacy characters, or like the climax, like not the way they fucking dealt with Luke Skywalker was atrocious. They pretty much teased this amazing showdown. Like
Anakin Skywalker.
Yeah, but you remember in the secret trilogy, like, aim all your guns at him, and he's like a force projection from across the universe. Yeah, you know what I mean. You know what I mean. So I just thought, like, the reason I dislike, like, because you can feel George Lucas's love for the movies in the prequels, whether or not there was missteps, of course, but like in the sequel trilogy, it just felt like they were being made to make them. It didn't feel like they had a real direction. Like, directors were leaving left, right, and center. Seemingly Colin Trevorrow, they did the Jurassic World movie. He was supposed to do part 3. He's supposed to have this awesome script out there somewhere for it. That never happened. They got rid of him. They brought J.J. Abrams back, and they had a really messy kind of conclusion to the trilogy. And I'm totally agree with you. Like, the Star Wars, when it's good, is next level. Mando, Boba Fett, Rogue One, the original trilogy. You know what I mean? Revenge of the Sith. Like, it's like, well, Clone Wars maybe is probably better than Revenge of the Sith, but like, it just I think that, like, it's so iconic a franchise that anytime it makes a misstep, it's so hard to believe that they've done it, because there's such a wealth of characters there. And I think that's the major problem with Star Wars. It's like the ones I mentioned, Predator and Aliens, kind of baffled you how they can make something bad out of something that's so fucking inherently good. But like, yeah, so that's my thoughts on Star Wars. And if you want my number one, I will give it to you in a moment. I will leave
as we are,
and then
definitely fitting our time really well. This is all super smooth.
So smooth. Not
funny word, smooth.
Yeah,
it's funny to say it. Smooth.
Do you want to know the origin of the word smooth? But right, so I'm gonna go away, and then I'll be back with my number one. It's the joke that was clearly nailing a moment ago.
What you did. I seen what you did.
You know what I'm saying? So my choice is the Terminator franchise to be number one, because
excellent choice.
Simply because Terminator 1 and Terminator 2 are so fucking good. In the same way James Cameron turned one of the best suspense horrors in Aliens, one of the two best horror actions. Like, what he did with the transformation he did with Terminator 2 is insane. Like, he turned one of these most insane, futuristic, fucking weird, dystopian kind of horror sci-fi movies into one of the best action horror sci-fi movies of all time. Is insane. And then part 3, it's not John Mostow's fault, the guy who directed part 3, Rise of the Machines. It's just the bad guy is nothing compared to, like, the Arnold Schwarzenegger himself, the T-800, and then to have the T-1000 in the sequel, and then to have what's her name? Is it shit, dude? Who played the villain in Rise of the Machines? Like, straight away.
Rise of the Machines. Oh, that lady.
Wasn't Rebecca Romaine Stamos? No, it wasn't her. She's Mystique, isn't she? Someone else.
Terminator.
Like, yeah. So like, part 1 and 2 were completely
Christina Loken.
No idea.
Christina Loken.
I don't know who that is.
She was the TX.
No, I know. I know who she is in the movie, but I don't know who she is as an actor.
She was actually in that Mortal Kombat short-lived TV series, would you believe? That's the only thing I knew her from. But
like, I just think that, like, part 1 and 2 were so different from one another, and then part 3 seemed like it was just trying to be part 2, but failing miserably. And I think that's the issue with the Terminator franchise going forward.
It didn't feel, even, you remember the joke where he leaves he goes in, the bar, and then he has his Elton John kind of esque glasses instead of the really kind of classically cool glasses.
Instead of the bad to the bone scene from part 2.
Yeah, that's exactly it. It's the bad to the bone scene. And you're just like, don't do that.
Yeah.
Don't diminish. Like, I mean, have some jokes, but don't diminish.
Yeah, man,
Like,
I was so disappointed. My first Terminator to get to go see in the cinema was Part 3. I was finally old enough to go see a Terminator movie in the cinema. And when I went to see Part 3, I was like, oh, come on. Like, you know what I mean? It just like, even I knew, like, I would have got Ed Furlong, I would have taped into a gurney in rehab, and I would have got that motherfucker back for Part 3 because he is John Connor.
yeah.
Stop casting other people to play John Connor because nobody does it as well as Ed fucking Furlong. Like, it's just the way
No.
it is. Like, you know, I say Ed Norton a minute
And
ago.
especially like they didn't when they went whatever the name of the dude is they went with. Like, I mean, talk about not even looking like, not even Nick Stahl,
Nick
like
Stahl,
not
yeah.
even remotely
Yeah, like,
harshly looking like him.
yeah.
He had such a distinguishable nose or
Mm.
something that he was just like, no, I'm not feeling this. You
Yeah,
know?
it's so frustrating. And the thing about it that annoys me so much is that it never really stuck to the continuity. You can say what you want about Rise of the Machines, and it is a weak movie at times, and it's very weak at times. It stuck to the original continuity. And we actually got to see the Skynet coming online, and we got to see the Judgment Day. And in the next movie, Terminator Salvation didn't pick up on that at all. It went in its own direction. I don't understand why you would do that, because I would look at Part 3 and go, okay, yeah, it has weaknesses, but we still have an intact timeline. We still have an intact continuity.
Yes.
And that's so important when you're trying to build on a franchise, whether or not your continuity is intact going forward. And that's the mistake Halloween made. It's the mistake Friday the 13th made and all these other films. And it's just that they didn't try and keep their continuity intact. And Terminator 3, even though it wasn't a great movie, obviously in comparison to the two classics that happened, Part 1 and 2, it still kept the continuity intact, and it still gave such an easy way to build. And then we get Salvation, which is a bit of a messy movie. And then we get fucking Genesis and Dark Fate. And to me, it just feels like they're not trying anymore or some shit. Tim Miller said James Cameron's interference in Part 3 or with Dark Fate means he'll never work with James Cameron ever again. That seemingly isn't interference. That movie is crazy. It's just that I don't know. I just think like what you need to do with the Terminator franchise is the obvious thing. And that was Part 3 ended at Judgment Day. Just continue on with the war of humans against machines. You know what I mean? Like, it's
Yeah.
so fucking easy. Give me that for 2 movies. And if you want to reboot, then have someone go back in the past and fucking boot it. And then you can continue if you want. But it was so simplistic. It ended at Judgment Day. If you want to bring back Nick Stahl instead of Ed Furlong for the next movie, do that. If you want to have him replace him as John Connor altogether, do that. Be my guest, right? But whatever. You had an intact continuity. The simplest thing was to go have a proper machine versus human war, and Salvation kind of did that, but it was such so different in terms of its tone with the first 3 that it just fucking annoyed the fuck out of me. But like, that's just the way I am a Terminator. I just think it's such an easy thing to do that they made such a fucking balls out of it.
Potential is a theme through all this.
Yeah,
because it's not like a dog shit franchise. Like, we neither of us touched on
sure from a
Transformers
shit.
because we kind of like gave
Yeah.
up on it very early. It didn't hit us enough. Terminator is a great example of something that made you love it.
Yeah.
Like, made you love it and
Yeah.
then took it all away.
Yeah. That's the problem, man. Like, it was just so fucking good. Like Predator, Alien, Transformers, or sorry, Predator, Alien, Terminator, my 3, 2, and 1. Just the first fucking 2 movies of both all those franchises were so fucking good. And not to be able to build or expand on those in the last 20 odd 30 years, whatever, it's just fucking crazy to me. Like, you know, it's just so crazy. But like, they're my number 5s, or my number 5s, but they're my top 5 most underwhelming franchises. Before we get the fuck out of here, Noel, what's your dishonorable mention?
My dishonorable mention is, and actually,
Nailing the background again this week, man.
Yeah, absolutely nailing the background again this week. I'll take down the fucking poster. My God, just give me a fucking break. I actually do have a thingy for it.
I just think
I'm not going to bother. It's Indiana Jones.
You need to move your camera slightly more to the left, so it's on the flat wall and not
That's
the corner.
Well, I need to get the skull thing down when we're doing it.
Yeah, just move your camera to the left.
Mine is Indiana Jones, man. When they went Alien, it retroactively ruined everything else. Like, amazing. It was actually a great trilogy, and the quadrilogy shot on it.
Yeah,
just shot back through time.
And the first 3 movies are so good.
Shot on it.
Yeah,
it should have never have happened. When Harrison Ford seen the word alien in the script, he should have said no.
Well, dude,
I literally watched somebody drink from what he assumed was the cup of Christ. Like, I mean, they literally proved the Christian religion. You know what I mean? Like they went completely into the.
But that's what Indiana Jones was, wasn't it?
Yeah,
religious iconography, all that kind of stuff. And then
exactly, and that was it. Yeah, and then they went aliens. You went no.
Yeah,
like you're not allowed to do that. And I get that it's fiction, but you're not allowed to do that because that's not what you are.
Yeah, you set the rules. You created the game. You set the rules. You can't go.
Yeah, you said. I would say that's it. I feel like these are your rules.
Yeah, and that's why we're so shocked that you were the one that broke them.
Yeah, that was it. And I mean, I'm not a religious person, and I don't give a fuck what you do. I just felt like this was like you're just trying to have it all now, and it's lazy, man. It was fucking lazy.
Yeah.
And no, I wasn't. I couldn't have it. I would not have it. I just thought that and don't forget that. Now, this is a good thing that I knew. If I was ever to be in a nuclear fallout, but not just nuclear fallout, but actually in the blast zone, like the actual blast zone, get in the fridge.
Yeah, man, and that was something I think we spoke about or something else before, but that was actually taken out Back to the Future.
I can't tell you what it was, but I know we spoke about it.
Yeah. But that was out Back to the Future, something that was cut out one of the Back to the Future sequels, I think. That he survived a nuclear blast with jumping in a fridge. But like, so yeah, I totally agree with you there. Indiana Jones Part 4 was a bit of a bastardization, but like the problem with Indiana Jones is in terms of choices, it actually had 3 good movies and only 1 bad movie. So it's not really an underwhelming franchise. It just had one underwhelming sequel. Is the only thing I would counter there. But like my honor or dishonorable mention was something that we touched upon a few times. You said it wouldn't get mentioned, and it definitely was going to get mentioned for me because it's one of the first franchises I thought about because I absolutely loved the fucking cartoon when I was a kid. And I actually kind of enjoyed Part 1 and thought it was a really nice soft open to a franchise. And then the sequels were fucking dog shit. And that is Transformers.
Oh, we're doing it.
We're doing it. I fucking loved the toys, and as a kid, one of my favorites of Christmases ever was getting Optimus Prime. Like, you know what I mean?
Trying to remember the earliest time I cried. And obviously, I was a baby. I probably cried an awful lot, despite being such a badass. But I do. I remember when Optimus gave his core to Hot Rod in the 1987 movie or something like that. I remember seeing that like really early in the 90s and just crying my heart out.
You would, though.
I loved Transformers.
Yeah,
loved it. They were robots in disguise.
Yeah,
and they were also more than meets the eye.
You're trying to take it more. You're trying to take it more of the lyrics, weren't you?
Yeah, but like, and I liked the first film. I did. I thought, and it was groundbreaking in 2007 to see those kind of special effects. It really was.
Oh, it really was.
But then the second one, they had that fucking janky ass fucking. The 2 kind of clearly black car, one had like buck teeth, and they turned into an ice cream van. Like when they're together, it was completely. It was like completely whack, and it was completely. Oh, I mean, it was so over the top. Like it was so overtly fucking over the top racist. And I'm like a fucking white Irish guy, and I was sitting here going, I get that this is told on all of the tropes.
Yeah.
Oh my god! Like, and if I'm picking up on it, and I'm not exactly adept. Then oh my god. But anyway, sorry, please continue.
No, I was just going to say a lot of the stuff you were saying, that like that I love the cartoon, love the toys. I actually enjoyed Part 1 as a pure blockbuster popcorn movie, real soft intro into a franchise, I thought. And the sequels, you said, they're completely tone deaf. They're all over the place. The robot designs are clunky. They give them weird, like why does Optimus Prime need lips? Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just weird.
Optimus Prime, who never had, but even like, do you remember in one of them where like Optimus is like, a second one, or I think where Optimus is like gets killed or about to get killed or some shit, and all of a sudden it's Shia LaBeouf, and it's like Optimus, and I remember just sitting there, and I was watching it. I used to live with Rachel Taylor Fawcett. I was living with her, so she had it on her laptop, and she just, because I was bored and we had no internet, she was like, "Do you want to watch this movie?" I said, "Fine." I was sitting there drinking a beer and watching this movie, and I was kind of going. I remember saying it out loud. That's how strongly I felt in a room by myself, I said, you don't get to put in this sad moment. You have not earned it.
Yeah.
You have not coherently told a story to me where you could just like, it would be like, dun, 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 dun,
like Amazing Spider-Man 2.
Stacey's dead. Yeah. With Stacey's dead, you're just like, you haven't earned it. Yeah. It's been too silly up till now. You don't get you didn't go from gears like a Spielberg will go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, 3, 4, 3, 2, 1, whatever way he wants to, because he'll do it. He'll try and manage it. And maybe you might have this like one moment that comes out of nowhere, but all the time you feel like the story narrative has been woven in such a way where you've earned it. This film, I've never seen a film who had earned it less. I didn't give a fuck that Optimus was dying. No fuck.
And you should, because you grew up with him.
Exactly. Yeah. I love him. He's a staple. I'm an 80s baby and I grew up in the 90s. This is absolutely my thing. And I couldn't have given a fucking continental fuck. And like we were talking in a previous podcast about the IG-11 in The Mandalorian, where he Terminators himself.
Yeah.
And that gave me the feels. And he was this clunky, like robotic nothing. You know what I mean? Like reprogrammed droid. And I felt it, man. I felt it because the storytelling, even though he was a hunk of metal, the storytelling had done enough for me to feel it.
Like K2 and Rogue One. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Excellent point. Big time, actually. That was a big one. And Lando was definitely fucking that robot.
Oh, 100%.
100%.
That was a different one. That was Solo. That was the other robot.
Yeah. Sorry, my apologies.
That was 437 or so. I can't remember. It's more clunky.
But no, it hadn't hurt it. And I know there was dinosaurs in the later ones. You tell me if you've seen it.
Yeah, I've seen
them. How bad did it get?
It gets pretty bad. The Mark Wahlberg ones aren't as good as the Shia LaBeouf ones, and that's not saying much.
Oof, wow.
Like I actually, one thing I have to say, I actually really enjoy Shia LaBeouf as an actor. I'm just going to put that out there. I think he's a fucking world-class actor when he's on form. Like, have you ever seen
so do I.
Honey Boy?
I don't think that's a controversial thing.
Have you ever seen Fury Road? Like, you know what I mean? He's such a good fucking actor. Like, I just think like, because it was, I hate when franchises replace the main character, and because Megan Fox trash talked Michael Bay, she got kicked out part 3. Like, and then because Shia LaBeouf had some shit going on in his personal life, to kick him out of the franchise, kind of like a la Johnny Depp recently in Pirates of the Caribbean, and you're going to see that franchise fail now. That franchise was a huge money maker for Disney. Like, I love Margot Robbie as an actor, like, but Johnny Depp is Pirates of the Caribbean, and in my opinion, Shia LaBeouf
he's not Captain Jack Sparrow. He is Pirates of the Caribbean.
Exactly. Yeah, and in my opinion, Sam Witwicky, he was Transformers. It was all based around his lore about the Witwickies and all that. And I know you can't become too dependent on the original lore if you want to expand your universe, something I talked about before. But like, I just felt like the whole story, Optimus Prime, and the connection he had with him and Bumblebee and all that, I just thought that was the kind of the crux of that franchise. Like, without Sam Witwicky, you don't really have that human connection from the outset. You know what I mean? It's just like, I think like later on then to have these robots have the same kind of immediate connection with other people and made it less kind of special or something, whatever, to have with the original cast or some shit, you know, that kind of way. Like, and I just thought like Transformers 1 was a lot more simplistic than the sequels in terms of storytelling, and it was actually probably the best of the franchise. In the same way, Bumblebee, that was out recently, that got released like a spin-off, that was really simplistic. It was just a girl and a robot. It was kind of very similar to like Iron Giant or something like that.
Yeah.
And I thought that's how you tell those kind of stories, that you can make it personal, you can make it small at the same time as making it huge, and you actually care about these characters. Like you said, like, I should care when Optimus Prime dies, and I didn't. And that's a massive failing of Transformers. You know what I mean? Like, like, you know, and I think that's the problem, that like it continued for the sake of continuing, and there's still more. There's going to be more. It's always going to be more.
It made billions.
Yeah,
I think billions.
I think it was Spielberg or someone that told Michael Bay.
100%. You know what you said?
Stop after 3 or something.
Yeah, you said. I think it was Spielberg, and my head went. I read the article where Mr. Spielberg told him to stop me, and I wish he listened to him.
Yeah, stop making after 3 or something.
Bank. It cleaned up in Asia, as well. Like,
of course,
completely,
it's going to clean up.
absolutely.
It's a blockbuster movie. It's popcorn, like, you know, it's going to make you 700 or 800 million every time, but doesn't mean they're good movies. And that's the problem with Transformers, that the good have so easily been good because there is two good movies there. There's Bumblebee and there's Transformers Part One. They're two really good action movies, in my opinion. Like Transformers, that's one. Bumblebee, I thought was the better one of the two. But it shows you what you can do with this franchise when it's done right, and the characters, and like fucking Metatron, and yeah, it's Metatron, isn't it? And like
Metatron, then Galvatron.
yeah, you know what I mean? And just they had the enemies there, and they had the cool robots, and they had all the lore, and they had all this and that. And it was just mishandled like a lot of the franchise, the whole point of this list, I suppose. And it's just disappointed me as a kid growing up with all that nostalgia, loving the cartoon, loving the toys, really enjoying part one, see the franchise go all over the place after that. And like it was just weird and disappointing. And I really enjoyed Bumblebee, and that was cool to see that movie come out. And hopefully more Transformers. Doesn't mean more bad Transformers. Hope it means we can show Bumblebee shows that can be smaller, it can be different, you can tell side stories and not have to have these massive skyscraper destroying battles that we always see in the Transformers movies. And I think it can actually be a cool fucking franchise if handled correctly, and that's why it's in my dishonorable mention.
It's an excellent dishonorable mention.
Yeah,
it won't even make my list, such as my dishonor towards it. You know, yeah. So yeah, no, excellent dishonorable mention. It is, you know what, it meant bank. You have to understand that that's probably that's what films are at the core. But this is something that had no heart, no heart. And no matter if you loved it, you can't say it had heart. It had no heart.
Yeah, like the first one or two felt like it was going somewhere, and then it just went all over the place after the first couple of like installments. Like I just think, like after a while, because you've got so many robots and so many people to tell that after Sam Witwicky, if you're not going to continue on, don't continue on with the same robots. Like have Optimus Prime, have Bumblebee, all them, whatever. That's their story, and leave that to one side and expand the universe in a different direction. It's like the team of the night, go outward, not upward sometimes. And I think that's what they could have done, and that's what Bumblebee proves, that sometimes take a side step and not a forward step. It's actually progression. It doesn't seem like it, but it actually is, because you can nestle all these little stories in a way that you like you can tell more personal stories like Mandalorian, Boba Fett. You can tell all these kind of more personal stories without affecting the greater narrative. And I think that's what they could have done with Transformers. But that's me. I'm outie. That's all my opinions. We've got more work to do tonight before we get the fuck out of here. So, all right, folks. I'm your host, Vince Green.
I'm your host, John Tui.
And we are a pair of anchors. And that was our top 5 most underwhelming franchises. And our
bleh to them.
All I have to say is it's a list of should have been amazing, but fucking went on to be a lot of
That's it. We did end up basing it on potential in the end. It's the potential that kills you, you know?
Yeah. So, all right, folks. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. See you next time, motherfuckers. Peace. Peace into the camera. Police. Feliz Navidad. All right. See you next time, folks.
Thanks for watching.
We outie now.